Let's bring in right now Peter Baker, MS Now contributor and chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, and retired U.S. Navy Vice Admiral John Miller. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Admiral, what is your reaction to the ultimatum that President Trump just gave Iran? We are going to get to talking about that missing airman, but I want to get this first, sir.
Well, there's been a lot of back and forth in the public sphere in terms of dialogue between the United States and Iran. I don't know precisely what the president means, other than we're going to continue to do the things that we've been doing, which is reducing Iran's ability to exert control over the Strait of Hormuz. And we do that by eliminating the military equipment that they use to do that, things like small boats, drones, anti-ship cruise missiles, potentially mines. So I think we're going to continue to go after those and go after them in a very concentrated way, in part because we're anxious to have the strait open, in part because I think we're at a point in the campaign to roll back Iranian power projection capabilities where we can really focus on this in a big way.
And Peter, of course, this is the latest in a string of deadlines that Trump has imposed on the regime. None seem to have yielded results. So why does he keep doing this? And what does it tell you about what he's currently thinking?
Well, I mean, I think this is a problem when you set deadlines that you don't keep. People don't know whether to believe them or not. You're right to say that he's done this multiple times. He had a 48-hour deadline before. He had a 5-day deadline. He had a 10-day deadline. And now we're at a 48-hour deadline again. It's very possible he fulfills something as a result of this deadline. It's very possible he finds some way or excuse to extend it, or even just pass it by without making note of it. That this has been the story of this war and the story, frankly, of this presidency. This is the way he operates. He loves setting deadlines. He loves, intimidation tactics. And sometimes he follows through on them, and then sometimes he doesn't. And so people don't know what to think. And in some ways, that unpredictability, it may be a strategy. It may just be the way he acts. He's an impulsive person. He's an erratic leader at times. But it also leaves the people on the other side, uncertain as to what he might do. Maybe that's a good thing, but maybe that's also a bad thing because they don't assume he's going to follow through.
Yeah, well, countless, at least 2-week deadlines have come and gone during this administration. That said, let's get to the search and rescue efforts underway for the crew member. We've been reporting it since the top of the hour, the one who ejected from that U.S. fighter jet downed over Iran. So, Admiral, give us a sense of how much danger that missing American soldier is in, and what could a rescue operation look like? We did hear our colleague Inzamam Rashid talking about the terrain in the area and said it was pretty unforgiving. It seemed like pretty rough terrain.
Well, certainly anytime you're down behind enemy lines, if you were, you're in danger. There's risk. There's probably fewer places in the world you would want to be, but there's a couple of things that we have going for this particular airman as we look for him. One is, although combat search and rescue is a very complex mission, we're the best in the world at it. And there are not enough resources that we won't put toward this effort to find this downed airman and bring him or her safely back home. In addition to that, that airman is trained to survive. He or she is trained to evade the Iranian forces as best as possibly he or she can. And so if with every bit of training that has been had on the part of the airmen and every bit of training that's been had on the part of the combat search and rescue crews, that gives us the best chance. If we can find this airman, we can bring him or her home. And that's obviously what we'd like to do.
Absolutely. Peter, how did the White House react to this incident? And how much does having an American soldier missing in Iran raise the stakes?
Well, it does, obviously. They're trying to play it down. You haven't heard the president talk about that. He hasn't gone out in public to discuss the situation. He didn't mention it in his social media post this morning. I think that they understand that to raise the profile of the situation could be, problematic. And so they'd like to get this airman out of there as quickly as possible, rather than let him be captured, because obviously it's a huge propaganda victory for Iran if they manage to get him, and it's a leverage point that they would use. They would hold him hostage. They would try to use that to extract demands. This airman would be, as the admiral just said, in a terribly dangerous situation there. So the White House at this point is doing what it can to basically keep this relatively lower profile while the president continues to amp up his threats on the Strait of Hormuz.
And in fact, the U.S. destroyed a critical bridge right near Tehran on Thursday, and officials say supplies for Iran's missile and drone forces were transported across that bridge, Admiral. President Trump is selling this as a big win for the U.S. Can you put that in perspective? Is it?
Well, it's a win. It remains to be seen how big a win it is. Anything that we do to interrupt Iran's ability, to the regime's ability to move troops around, to move supplies around, there probably are still some stockpiles that we haven't been able to find yet of missiles or of drones. And so if you interrupt their ability to move things around, that's a victory. In addition to this, it's a very public operation when this bridge blows up. And so the Iranian people, they know a war's going on, but they haven't seen a lot of it because it's factories that are out away from populated areas that are being destroyed. It's weapons storage sites, that sort of thing. So this is a chance for them to see, hey, the regime is getting hit and they are losing. And so it's a little bit of a victory for the Iranian people who haven't had much chance to really understand how this conflict is going.
President Trump addressed the nation this week, more than a month after starting this war, and he talked about ending the operation, but he left out the when and the how details. Let's take a listen to part of this.
We will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close.
Peter, what compelled Trump to give this speech? Was he pressured into it? What was the point? And did he deliver on it? And finally, how was it received?
Yeah, there's a lot of nervousness among Republicans these days that he hasn't done more to explain the war, to defend the war, to rally the public behind it. Remember, this is the first war we've ever seen in the history of modern polling that the public was not in favor of when it started. Every other war, traditionally, the public rallies around the president. Republican, Democrat, doesn't really matter. And if they later lose faith in the war, that's one thing. But they start off in the president's camp when he launches military operations. That didn't happen this time. Republicans are looking now at an unpopular war. Polls show 60 to 65% of Americans don't favor the war, don't think that the president is handling it very well. So he had to get out there, Republicans felt, to explain it and to rally support. Now, the trick is that the speech he gave sounded like a day one speech rather than a day 32 speech, right? He explained that he wanted to go after Iran's nuclear capability and keep it from being a threat in the region, but he didn't really explain about what his goals were to make sure that happens. And he didn't explain what victory looks like. He says we're almost done with our military objectives, but then makes the point of saying, well, but Vietnam lasted a long time. World War II lasted a long time. He gave the exact number of years, months, and days each of these other wars lasted, as if to say, this one might go on for a while. So it's kind of a contradictory message. He also said in this speech, it's worth remembering, that Iran had no more air defense capabilities, which we've now seen in the last 24 hours. That's not the case.
Yeah. Okay. Sobering statement right there. Peter Baker, thank you for that. Admiral Miller, thank you so much as well.